So I was going to look up cold cases in Kentucky. The first article I looked at was on the Courier-Journal. Kentucky cold cases: 9 bodies, 2 killers identified using DNA and family trees. So I read this one, and it uses the forensic genetic genealogy, and it also gained popularity in 2018 with identifying the Golden State Killer in California. And that kind of really got a lot of attention. And so we're going to dive in to kind of both of these articles. And then it also linked the article that I'm mainly going to go over is called How Kentucky is Identifying Crime Victims and Suspects Through Their Family Trees. All right, in Kentucky, officials have partnered with multiple labs to successfully find the names of at least 8 previously unidentified individuals, as well as identities of 2 killers. These databases that they're using, DNA Solves, GED Match, and Family Tree. The other databases that can share DNA results with the national databases would be like 23andMe and Ancestry.com. So if you go and do it yourself because you're interested in your own DNA, and if you want to voluntarily give that data to the national databases or the state databases, it's all connected eventually. So somebody can voluntarily put their DNA in that way. But they also get DNA through mandating, like criminals and things like that. So if you have committed a felony or whatever, they're going to test your DNA and they're going to analyze it and they're going to set it into the database. I don't think they really test your DNA any other way unless you're actually putting it in voluntarily, or if you've given reason about crimes and stuff. I think that the most advanced thing that we have done recently was finding the maternal DNA through the mitochondrial DNA. So pretty much this is all new technology, which has really helped DNA analysis gain leverage on, finding criminals through DNA, or long lost relatives. But the mitochondrial DNA, is inherited only from the mother, and so every sibling has the same mtDNA as the other, along with that person's mother and their maternal grandma, even the maternal great-grandmother. So it just goes back through the mitochondria, and that in itself has really advanced the data analysis that criminal investigation can use for society and civil safety, pretty much. And now I'm just going to go over the couple examples that these articles gave me on how we have used current DNA processes to catch the bad guys or determine who's not the bad guy. Pretty much the new processes of DNA is making criminal justice, social justice, civil justice, whatever you want to call it. It's going to make that more reliable. It's going to make that better. It's pretty amazing, actually. So, like I said earlier, the big case that really got a lot of attention was in California in 2018. I'm just going to quote: Forensic genealogy, the process by which Matthews was identified, gained popularity as a powerful investigative tool in 2018 when it was used to identify the Golden State Killer, who went undetected for decades after killing at least 13 people and raping more than 45 women. That's a problem. That is so cool that we were able to catch the guy through DNA. I'm pretty sure it was the maternal DNA as well. And then in Kentucky, the winter of 1992, rabbit hunters stumbled upon a gruesome sight in a wooded area just outside of Owensboro, where they found a badly beaten and dismembered body under a pile of brush. The victim had been shot multiple times, his teeth knocked out, his hands and feet removed, and his name was unknown. For nearly 35 years, the true identity of the man went uncovered. Then last spring, his DNA was finally matched to that of a Louisville man, thanks to the use of a fairly new investigative tool among Kentucky police, aka, I think it was really the maternal DNA, because it's relatively new and it's whatever. They're making things happen with DNA. William Dennis Matthews was 37 years old at the time of his death. Kentucky State Police are still searching for his killer, a task that should benefit from finally having Matthews' name to start with. This was discovered this year in 2025. This article was just written like the 1st of February. First week of February 2025. They have finally found this man's name with his DNA. So the recent DNA processes are really great and effective, but the cost of it is expensive. The article, quote unquote, says the lab worked to build family trees and find relatives that could lead to the identification of an unnamed person cost about $7,500 per case, with some Kentucky cases paid for through crowdfunding, quote unquote. And another quote: that cost does not include the police investigations that happen once relatives are identified. For example, a woman who was found in Kentucky in the 1980s and who was recently identified through forensic genealogy had been adopted as an infant. So while police now know her biological identity and place of birth, a secondary investigation had to be launched to uncover who she was adopted by, what her given name was, and ultimately what led to her death at age 20. Federal funding is really needed to continue pushing DNA databasing and to continue new DNA technologies. Current federal funding in Kentucky. Kentucky's Office of the Medical Examiner recently landed $800,000 $5,000 in grants that will go towards submitting more cases to labs capable of forensic genealogy. Work is already underway to identify 2 more victims, a woman found in Shively in 2005, and a man found shot to death near Williamstown in 1989. Her office's grant will be used to hopefully identify 20 homicide victims who were killed between 1973 and 2020 in 18 different Kentucky counties. I'm also going to put the other link for the article specifying the 9 bodies that they found, because the 2 articles are connected. The system is still imperfect. In Kentucky, 83 deceased people are listed as unidentified in the National Database for Missing and Unidentified Persons, called NamUs. Despite the accomplishments, dozens of Kentucky cases remain cold because they lack an identity, and the number could be higher than the 83 included in the NamUs database. And that's because I don't think typically we don't run DNA analysis on just like anybody. I think you have to have like a reason to get your DNA analyzed, because it is costly, so it's not just like we're just handing it out. So that's kind of an issue. Most law enforcement agencies, including in Kentucky, are not required to enter victims' information in the NamUs database and may not be aware of its power for solving cases nationwide. So this is like this is an issue with the law enforcement agency, kind of like their standard. They need to be able to enter all of the victims' information in the database, because it's not really like they don't have to. So that is causing an issue.